Hey guys, Malkuth1974 coming back at you with the second episode of the International Civilian Space Program. Okay, so first we got to start off with what this second episode is. Another introduction to how the supply system works. But first, I got to tell you about a mistake, a failure that we've already had in this game. This is a supply ship that's supposed to go to the moon and supply the fellows that are landed on the moon. Unfortunately, I launched the ship, got it almost to the moon, but I forgot to extend the solar panels. And what happened is I lost control of the vessel, and now it is basically a relic in space floating around. And I can't do anything with it unless I launch a rescue mission to actually retrieve it. But that is a problem in itself because the vessel itself is not all that expensive. To launch this vehicle totally it costs about 36,000 Kerbal Dollars. That's to get it to the moon. And how the supply vessels are going to work in this is that Kerbals in the civilian space program cannot stay in space forever without supplies. And what I'm going to do is, if you look up in the upper left hand corner, you'll see two different things up there. And what they are is, one is the Kerbal crew manifest, where I can control where the crew is, and the other one was the Kerbal time clock. So this particular vessel right here has a pod. Now it has somebody in it, but I'm going to take him out because it's going to be very similar to how real life pods work. All like the International Space Station, the pods are all could be manned vessels, but they're stripped out, gutted, and they are the supplies are put inside of it. So this is the second launch. This is a one-man pod. Now, how I think this is going to work, I could change it. I could actually use you guys' opinion on some of this stuff. What do you think about it? But a one-man pod has enough supplies for 3 months for 3 Kerbals. And I'm thinking that the 3-man pod has enough supplies for 5 months for 3 Kerbals. Now, how we can divide that up for 1 Kerbal, we can figure all that out, by just dividing it by 1 or whatever we need to do. But so basically, everything will have to be supplied. If I have people on the moon, they will have to have a supply given to them. There are basic supplies that they take off with. Say the moon lander that we landed in the last one with Jeb and everything, I figured that they launch enough for 1 month's supply. So with this launch and the launch before, Jebediah, Bill, and Bob will have enough supplies for 4 months. So we'll use the Kerbal time clock to actually set that as a time in the game 4 months in advance. If in the game we don't get more supplies to them or get them off the moon within that 4 months, then they are considered dead and have to be killed some way or somehow. It's pretty easy to kill Kerbals, but so that's the gist of that. So look at me, I'm actually on this one, I'm actually getting the solar panels out. So this is the supply vessel. Again, this is an older vessel. If you guys think you could come up with a cheaper vessel, again, this one with fuel costs only 36,000 Kerbal Dollars to get to the moon. Of course, it's a one-way ticket, so the fuel costs are a lot lower since we don't have to come back, and it's a lot lighter vessel, so it's not it's not a 3-man pod. Those 3-man pods cost a lot of money to get to the moon. So all I'm doing right here is setting up my interception of the moon, and we will be going. There we go. You guys notice how I go to the moon the same way I have always gone. Even though I did a tutorial on how to get to the moon. And this is I do it the same way every time. It has never ever failed me. Sometimes you get a little bit off the plane and you have to correct it, like I am right now. I'm kind of trying to correct it, but other than that, it does very well. I can't speak. What I would like to do is to start actually doing the launch and not even stopping, not even circularizing. I gotta learn how to do it better, but not even circularizing Kerbal, just launching and going directly to the moon. It's very possible to do it. I've seen some people do it. It's it's just one of those things that you gotta learn to do, like everything else in Kerbal Space Program. If you guys are wondering, in the last video I didn't have everything all figured out what I was gonna do. But now, the page, the thread page is coming together. I've gotten most of the Excel worksheet written to satisfactory to where it's working. We're going to see it a little bit at the end of this episode when we go over the budgets after the missions in this one. I do got to tell you that I did launch another mission before this, and I should put a disclaimer. The Moonshine 5, that was the first one we launched, and I complained about it would separate when you launched it off the moon because it was based off the actual Apollo missions. So what I ended up doing is I actually took the whole thing off the moon. I used the fuel. There's extra fuel in the second stage. I transferred the stage down, and I put it in a orbit around the moon, and then I sent the Kerbals home in just the command pod by themselves. I edited, because I'm allowed. You can see me right now. I'm trying to land, but I edited the Moonshine. I took off the lander and I added a bigger tank to the command module and called it a refueler, and I launched it to the moon, totally refueled the lander, and it's still in orbit right now, being ready to go down to bring them home if they need to go home. I think it's Bill. Bill's with it, and there's a whole lot of things we'll get into a little bit later. But so let's just talk about the landing. We've seen this. I've done this 1,000 times, so it's no big deal. The same thing I'm doing before. I'm trying to get it as close as I possibly can. Notice I don't use MechJeb or anything like that. If I do like tons and tons, I don't even have it installed. I haven't installed MechJeb since 0.17, I think. I kind of enjoy doing the landings myself. It's fun. To me it's fun. So a lot of the things that are challenging to me now is landing on a certain spot, like I'm doing right now. It is still challenging to me. It's not easy by any means, because even though you try your hardest, doing this by eye is not precise. And as you can tell right here, I'm trying to get the ship as close as I can, and this thing is extremely wobbly, so it likes to move around everywhere. So I'm like, and you guys are going to see the mistake I'm going to make here in a little bit, but luckily it's not. Well, we'll just wait. Just getting them closer, correcting my speed a little bit. I mean, I'm sure I'll get better at this as time goes by, but for now it's a little tricky for me. I can land on any spot on the moon I want. It's just, and probably land it easily. It's just that landing it next to like a colony like I have down there is a little bit more difficult, because I don't have a rover yet, and we don't want the Kerbals to have to exert energy to travel, very far on the moon to get to their supplies. So we want to get the supplies as close as possible to the actual housing unit for they're not hurting themselves. If you guys notice, there's no landers down there. That's because all the landers are, even the one I showed you, the experimental one that I made before I even started making these videos. So right here I'm landing, and oops, that was the mistake I made. I hit the ground a little too. By the way, the video is sped up. I am doing this commentary all after the fact, but here we go. We're gonna try to flip this thing up It's a pretty rugged little ship, so it shouldn't be too bad. Oh, we missed that one. Let's see. Oh, right back. Don't you just love Kerbal Space Program when you can fix your mistakes? Luckily, nothing blew up. And I am looking at the situation. I'm thinking it's still way too far, so let's get this up here. Get this over a little bit. Oh, I'm getting a little bit nervous. It's very hard to do this manually. If I had MechJeb, it'd be a lot easier because MechJeb could control everything. So I'm coming down. I'm like, oh no, this is not going to be good. Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh. And I managed to keep it straight. So let's get Jebediah out of here. Jebediah is the only one on the colony right now. Both Bill and Bob are up in the lander. That's going to be coming back down a little bit later. Not in this episode, but I'll probably bring them down in a few episodes. So he's just going over. He's going to pick up some supplies, bring it back in. Of course, this thing can sit here for 3 months and not have any issues. Just like in real life, though, once it's empty, we'll want to get rid of it. That probably means making it do a nosedive into the moon somewhere. So we'll get him going. As you notice, I didn't make the ladders on this thing very, very tall. So there we go. Base is resupplied. They have 4 months of fuel, and we're all set. Now let's go check out the last part of the mission. We want to get... We actually have 2 crews up here. We have the old moon colony, which are these guys. They're now in the refueler. That's the refueler. So if you notice, it's a little bit longer. It uses the bigger 2-stage tank instead of the 1-stage tank that the original ship came with. There's the lander. It's now connected with the old lander that's in space. Both Bob and Bill are in there. The lander will go back down to the moon. Unfortunately, now that I'm thinking about it, the lander still can only hold 2 people, so one of them is going to have to stay in space in that lander. Now, this is going to totally mess up the whole supply situation, because now we have 2 Kerbals on the moon, and we'll have 1 Kerbal in space in the command vehicle. Basically, that's what they're going to use to get back home. These guys are going to go home in this one, the Moonshine. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm sending a course for them to get back home. In this particular one, I am going to actually try to do this as correctly as I can. I am not going to have the vessel actually enter the Earth's atmosphere. I mean, not Earth's, but the Kerban atmosphere on the first try, because anybody who plays this game knows that if you did that in real life, or even if you're using, I'm not using it, but if you're using deadly re-entry, your ship would be destroyed because you're going in at too much of an angle. So I've been trying to practice getting my ship to come at a particular angle that is not going to totally destroy my ship. I think the way I did this, it's still a little bit too fast. I slowed it down quite a bit, but so we're going to do 1 pass. We're going to bring we're going to hit the PE, and then we're going to bring the AP back down a little bit. We'll see this all happening. There we go. So now I'm all set up. I did my burn. We're going to move away from the moon, and if you just saw what happened right there, I actually time accelerated past once. So basically I kind of messed up. Luckily the PE's still well in beyond Earth's atmosphere, so it didn't cause any trouble. So I'm going to bring the AP down to right about there. I don't want to use too much fuel because I'm going to need a little bit more of it to slow it down. And when I get to the AP, I'm going to bring the PE down until we can actually land the vessel. Now, if anybody knows a better way of slowing yourself down in this, I don't know if this is the correct way to do it or not, but basically what I'm doing is I'm coming down and I'm going to use the rest of my fuel to slow me down even more, which is going to get me down to, what, 24. So, and then of course we're going to speed up a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep that part on. I'm going to wait till the engine starts boiling off, and then I'm going to throw it away, and we're just going to use the rest of, I think the way I just did it, it would have survived. The other part would have most certainly burned up, but I'm pretty sure I think this started heating up at about 1800 ms. I'm pretty sure that would have been a safe re-entry for a command pod. I'm not 100% sure, but anybody has any suggestions on that? Obviously it doesn't really matter right now because I don't have deadly re-entry or anything like that installed the game, and re-entry really doesn't matter yet in Kerbal Space Program, but it will, and I don't want to get used to doing stuff like this. So we got 2 Kerbals on there. That's 2 less Kerbals we have to supply. They're back in the base. They can be used on other missions. So let me show you now the actual budget system. This is written in Microsoft Excel 2013. As you can see, the starting budget is 1 million, and the current budget after mission 1 is 768,835. Now I have a total vessel cost, a total fuel cost, a total mission cost, and over here I have the budgets for the year, and then when more years come out, when we add budgets to it, we can figure that out and do that. This is the mission breakdown. The first mission, which we did last time, I've already put in an introduction to the game. If you notice that Moonshine 5, it costs 167,000 just for the parts, and it's 64,000 for the fuel, so a total cost of 231,000. So that was an expensive ship. So now I'm going to put in the information for the second one. I think I'm going to start with the refueling mission, which is what the moon, I think I put it in wrong. I said landing, but it's not right. We're going to fix it later to refueling. I'm going to put the ship in. Yeah, I wrote this whole program myself, so I'll show you how everything works. Everything's set up for the ship cost, the fuel amount. So now we can see that it was a little more expensive to launch, but whatever. This is where I have all my ships listed, the different ships, just to show you that, and then that's how I select them in there, and then it automatically fills in the cost and the fuel amount used. Right there is if the mission was accomplished or not, or what happened in the mission. It doesn't really matter yet what that means. As you can tell, the mission cost has automatically been added to the budget, so my current budget is 531. I've spent a total of 468. So now we're going to do this last mission, which was a resupply mission. And of course we failed the first mission, so we're going to have to put that in here. We can't just let that go. Oh, and up here I noticed, I put the wrong thing in here. This should have been a refuel. There, I fixed it up there. Alright, so here we go. Looking for everything. Supply mission, there we go. And we're going to put the vessel used. It was the Mark 1 resupply vessel. Again, it's all set up. You can see the total cost is 34,000. We actually need to put failed in here. Again, this doesn't mean anything. This is just for my own viewing. And of course, we just lost $35,000 for pretty much nothing. So we got to repeat this again and put in supply. For mission number 4, this would be technically what this is. The resupply vessel again. This is the one that actually did make it, so it was accomplished, and we're all set there. So that's how it works. And if we go look at our budget, we can see that we've spent $537,906 on fuel costs and vessels. And the current budget for the rest of the year, which is pretty abysmal, is only $462,095. And we still have to show you some other stuff. I think I'm going to show you... I am planning on doing other things. I'm just checking to make sure the numbers match, because it looked weird when I was looking. Like, again, this program is still a work in progress. And I'm thinking, why doesn't it seem right? But that's not a big deal. Alright, so I am working on a contract mission thing for things like private companies launching satellites and stuff like that, or even military organizations wanting stuff in there. It is a work in progress, and the very next episode we're going to go over how it's going to work. but for right now, this is what I have set up. Everything is going to be based, a lot of stuff, I know I didn't discuss this, but I know I could write it in the program, but I've been using Dungeons and Dragons dice to figure out certain things. And I think how the missions will work is that I will roll a 20-sided die, and that is the amount of missions that will be available for the year. And then I will roll another 20-sided dice to decide which missions I can use. So if I say, oh, I'm going to do a contract mission, I'll roll a dice and we'll see which one we can. That's why they're all different prices. That's why we can't just pick and choose. It'll be a dice roll type thing. So as always, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. Hope I explained anything. If anybody has any ideas how to improve on anything, to make things better, just give me a shout. Consider everything. Everybody wants things too expensive, things too cheap, things the fuel cost. I'm not sure. I did mess with that program that makes missions for you and stuff, and the fuel cost in that program is extremely expensive. So I was like, I don't know why, the fuel costs are like 3 times as much as the vessels. So I was like, that doesn't make any sense. But anyway, this is Malkuth 1974. Actually, you can see that I had it installed there if you saw the MC, because I was trying to see if I could mission control, I think that's what it's called. I was seeing if I could actually use that with this. It will not work with the system I want to use it because it's not complicated enough, I guess. So everybody, this is Malkuth. Subscribe, comment, and rate. And I'm looking forward to your ships, so get them to me for I can start getting some real missions going. Malkuth out.